Welcome to this training module on creating, configuring, and managing Microsoft Entra identities. We will explore how to handle the complete lifecycle of user identities, from initial creation to governance and monitoring. Let's get started. To begin, let's define what we are managing. Microsoft Entra ID is your cloud-based identity and access management service. It acts as the security control plane, meaning every access request to your resources starts with identity verification. When we talk about managing users, we generally categorize them into two buckets. First, we have cloud-only identities, which are created directly in the Entra Admin Center. Second, we have hybrid identities, which originate in your on-premises Active Directory and are synchronized to the cloud. Your goal in this session is to understand the full scope of enterprise user management, which includes not just creating the user, but assigning the licenses, groups, and roles required for them to be productive and secure. This diagram illustrates the central role of Microsoft Entra ID. On the left, we see the sources of identity. On-premises Active Directory syncing via Connect or Cloud Sync, HR systems like Workday provisioning directly or cloud-native creation. All these flow into the central Entra ID node. From there, the diagram flows to the right, showing how that single identity is used to control access to your applications, data, and devices. This visualizes why accurate user management is critical. It is the gateway to all downstream resources. Now let's look at the how. There are 4 primary ways to get users into your tenant. For ad hoc needs, you can manually create a user in the Admin Center where you will define the user principal name UPN and generate a temporary password. For larger batches, you don't need to do this one by one. You can download a CSV template, populate it with required fields like name and UPN, and upload it to bulk create users. However, most enterprises use automation. If you have an on-premises directory, you will use Microsoft Entra Cloud Sync to project those users into the cloud. Alternatively, you can bypass AD entirely and provision digital identities directly from cloud HR systems like Workday, establishing the HR system as the source of truth. This decision flow helps you select the right creation method. Starting on the left, we identify the creation method need. If you are handling a one-off request, follow the top path to the Admin Center user blade. For a department onboarding, the second path shows the CSV bulk upload option. The bottom 2 paths represent automated enterprise flows, using Entra Connect for hybrid environments or HR inbound provisioning for direct integration. All paths converge on the right, resulting in a unified Entra user object ready for configuration. Not all users are employees. You also need to manage external partners and customers. Microsoft Entra B2B collaboration allows you to invite guest users who authenticate with their own home credentials, keeping your directory secure without managing their passwords. For customer-facing applications, you might use external tenants, formerly B2C, which provide a separate directory optimized for consumers. You can also enable self-service sign-up, where users create their own identities based on their email domains, which is useful for viral adoption of services. When inviting B2B guests, the default process involves sending an email invitation, which the user redeems to establish a link to your tenant. This sequence diagram details the B2B invitation flow. First, the administrator or an application initiates the request in Entra ID. Entra ID then triggers an email to the external user. Note the critical step where the guest clicks the redemption link. Entra ID validates their identity against their home provider, like their own corporate AD or a social ID, not your directory. Finally, once validated, Entra grants access to the shared resource, completing the external identity lifecycle. Once a user exists, you must configure their profile. In the Admin Center, you can edit core attributes like job title and contact info, or administrative settings like blocking sign-in. But what if standard fields aren't enough? You can use directory extensions to add custom attributes required by your applications. For security scenarios, you should use custom security attributes. These are sensitive key-value pairs used to categorize users for access control policies. Finally, to organize management, you can assign users to administrative units. This allows you to delegate administration, for example, letting a regional help desk manage only the users in their specific unit. This class diagram visualizes the structure of a configured user. The core user profile contains standard data like UPN and methods like block sign-in. We see custom attributes extending this profile, allowing you to attach specific business data like cost centers or clearance levels. On the right, the admin unit aggregates these user profiles, visualizing how you can group distinct sets of users to apply delegated administrative permissions specifically to them. Creating the user is step 1, granting access is step 2. We manage access primarily through groups. You will use security groups to control access to apps and resources, and Microsoft 365 groups for collaboration tools like Teams. To reduce manual overhead, configure dynamic membership rules. This automatically adds users to groups based on attributes, such as adding everyone in sales to the sales team group. You must also assign administrator roles. Always follow the principle of least privilege, assigning specific roles like user administrator rather than global admin. Finally, ensure users have the right tools by assigning licenses, which can also be done via groups for efficiency. This flow shows the access management hierarchy. The user object flows into a decision on membership type. It can be manually placed in an assigned group or automatically sorted into an attribute-based group dynamic. Both group types flow down to grant resource access. Crucially, the dynamic group path also branches to license assignment, showing how you can automate licensing. Separately, the user object connects to admin role assignment, representing privileged access management. Managing users manually doesn't scale. You need lifecycle workflows to automate the joiner, mover, leaver, JML processes. For joiners, you can configure workflows that run before the employee's first day, automatically sending a temporary access pass to their manager so they are ready to work immediately. For leavers, automation is critical for security. You can configure workflows to revoke tokens, remove licenses, and eventually delete the account a specific number of days after termination. These workflows are often triggered directly by data changes in your HR system, ensuring your directory stays in sync with employment status. This state diagram visualizes the automated lifecycle. Starting at the top, an HR signal triggers the pre-hire state. The joiner workflow moves the user to active status, provisioning credentials and groups. If their role changes, they enter the mover cycle to adjust access, returning to active. Upon termination, they transition to leaver, where access is revoked. Finally, they move to archived before the account is permanently deleted, completing the lifecycle. The final piece of management is monitoring. You must regularly review 3 key logs. Sign-in logs tell you who is accessing what and helps identify risky behavior. Audit logs provide the trail of administrative actions: who created a user, who changed a group, or who assigned a role. Provisioning logs are essential for troubleshooting issues with HR sync or app access. Beyond logs, you must actively maintain hygiene. Use access reviews to detect and clean up stale accounts, particularly inactive guest users who no longer require access to your tenant. This monitoring flow starts with Entra activity on the left. The data is funneled into 3 specific log types: sign-ins, audits, and provisioning. The diagram shows the specific utility of each. Sign-ins lead to risk detection, audits enable compliance, and provisioning logs allow for sync troubleshooting. All these insights feed into the admin dashboard, or your SIEM tool on the far right, giving you a comprehensive view of your environment's health.